Hey everybody, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today on our 2022 Chevy Equinox, we're going to be showing you how to install the Curt Trailer Hitch Receiver. But before we do that, why don't we check it out and make sure that this is the right hitch for you. So the Equinox is a pretty popular SUV. You see quite a few of them out on the road. And I feel like because of that, people use them to do a lot of different things. You know, whether it's using an accessory like a bike rack, maybe when you're going out riding, a cargo carrier when you got the family, you know, going on vacation, or even pulling a trailer around. You know, whatever the case may be, if it were me, I would want a hitch that I could do a little bit of everything with. And this one's going to do just that. So it's really going to open up your opportunities on what you can use your Equinox for. With that said, on the same note, I'd want something that wouldn't be a big eyesore. And I feel like this one looks pretty good. For the most part, it's going to be completely hidden. Really, the only thing you're going to be able to see is the receiver tube opening here in the middle. So this is going to be a Class 3 hitch, which means it's going to have that 2" by 2" receiver tube opening. Extremely popular size, and a ton of different accessories will work with it. At the end, there will be a reinforced collar for some extra support. And it is going to use that standard 5/8 pin and clip. Keep in mind though, a pin and clip doesn't come included. If you need one, you can always grab it right here at eTrailer. The safety chain openings are going to be a loop style. They're really thick and they give you more than enough space to use just about any size hook that your trailer might have. As far as the hitch's weight capacities go, it's going to have some really high numbers. Maximum gross tongue weight rating is going to be 675 pounds, and that's going to be the amount of weight pushing down on the hitch. So that's more than enough for any size bike rack or cargo carrier that you'd want to use. Just to kind of give you an example, as far as the hitch's maximum gross trailer weight rating goes, that's going to be 4,500 pounds, and that's going to be the amount of weight that is pulling on the hitch. So weight of your trailer plus anything that you might have on it. The hitch can be used with the weight distribution system, which is a separate component. And what happens is, if you use that, is it's going to keep your trailer and your Chevy nice and level whenever you're towing it down the road. So if you have kind of maybe a larger camper or something like that, that weight distribution might be worth looking into. However, with that said, even if you use it, weight ratings are going to remain the same. With all that in mind though, I do always like to suggest it's never a bad idea just to grab your Equinox's owner's manual. That way you can make sure your SUV can pull that much weight safely. Now we can just grab a couple of measurements, and these are going to help us figure out what hitch mounted accessories will work best. If you go from the ground to the top inside edge of the receiver tube opening, that's going to be about 11.5 inches. And so chances are pretty good. If you are going to be pulling a trailer, you're going to need to get a ball mount that has a rise in the shank. If you go from the center of the hitch pin hole to the edge of our rear bumper, that's going to be about 6 inches. And you can use that measurement to help figure out that if any folding accessories you might have can be stored in that upright position without hitting the back of your Equinox. So just to compare this hitch to the other Class 3s that are available, they're all very similar, honestly, in terms of appearance. All the weight capacities are the same and everything else. So it's really just going to kind of boil down to your personal preference, which one you think looks the best. To be honest with you, I'm kind of partial to the eTrailer hitch. It has more of a matte black finish, and I think it just kind of blends in with the bottom of the bumper a little bit better, but that's just my opinion. You know, if you like the gloss or the semi-gloss, whatever you choose, they're all going to work out just fine. Other than that, at the end of the day, you know, it's going to get the job done and let you use your Equinox how you want. As far as getting the hitch installed, it's really not too bad. You do have to lower the exhaust a little bit to give you some space to work. Not a huge deal, but once that's done, everything's pretty open and relatively easy to get to. So as long as you take your time, really shouldn't run into too many issues. But if you'd like to see how that's done, feel free to hang around. We'll go ahead, pull into the garage, and put the hitch on together now. To begin our installation, we're going to be here at the back of our Equinox, and along the bottom edge of our bumper, we're going to have 2 Torx bit screws that we need to pull out. And these are going to be a T15. Get that one removed. And then the one over on this side in the same spot. At this point, we are going to need to let our exhaust come down a little bit. But what I suggest doing is taking a strap and just running it from side to side. That way we can kind of control how fast and how far we let the exhaust come down. So first one will be this rubber isolator hanger right here, kind of just in front of our muffler. You can spray it down with some soapy water or penetrating oil. Then just take a pry bar or even a big screwdriver and just push one end of it off. Just like that. And then kind of behind our bumper here, we're gonna have some exhaust hangers that are bolted up. So that's what these fasteners are here. Now you have to pull the bolts out from this side, so you can't really see the head of them, but I mean, pretty straightforward. And I want to mention from this point on, anything we do to one side of the vehicle, we're also going to do to the other side because it'll be set up the same way. But with that said, I'm going to use a 15 millimeter. I got this ratcheting wrench, but I mean, you can get a regular socket wrench up there too. So what I like to do is just kind of break them both loose. And then pull, you know, one or the other completely out here. And then once these are both out, we're gonna kind of have to push this plastic hanger deal towards the back of the car, which we'll get to in just a second. So what you're going to do is just take this whole piece, just kind of work it off, just like that. So with both the sides loose, we can loosen up our strap. And what you're going to need to do is kind of take these deals, push them down. And what we're trying to do is get this to come below the bumper. So it's a little tight, but it'll make things a lot easier in the long run here. Just like that. Now if you look on the bottom of our frame rail, this is where our hitch is going to attach, and we're going to need to get hardware inside of the frame. So this larger hole, that's going to be used as an access hole. The only issue is our hardware, like the spacer block, for example, and our carriage bolt. They're too big to fit in there, so we need to enlarge this a little bit. You can use a bunch of different things. Thankfully, we don't really have to take out a ton of material. You can use a hand file or a bit like this. Obviously, something like this will speed it up a little bit, so I'm just going to open this up some. So I will take the bit here and enlarge this a little bit until it's big enough to allow that hardware to pass through. So that looks about good. We'll just double check here. Spacer block fits in. Head of the bolt will fit in. And what I do suggest, since we do have some bare exposed metal now, not a bad idea just to take some paint. Just put a slight coating on there just to help prevent rust and corrosion. So after giving this a minute to dry, we can get our hardware in. So we're going to be doing this attachment point first. You're going to take the coiled end of your fish wire, and I find it somewhat useful to just kind of measure the distance and put a bend in it there, because you're going to feed that up and then pull it out of that hole that we enlarged. Take your spacer block, slide that over the pull wire, thread the carriage bolt on, and just push everything into place until it drops down. The other two attachment points that we're going to be using will be this hole as well as this one. We're going to use that same technique and hardware combination. With these two, I do suggest starting with this back one first though. So slide that in, and this one we got kind of lucky, it came right out. Sometimes you might have to kind of reach up there and help guide it out a little bit. And so we'll get this on the fish wire. Drop down, and same exact deal with this one here. Now at the next set of hands, we can get our hitch into position. So we'll kind of have to work this up and over our exhaust. And then we're going to take our fish wires and put them in the appropriate holes. So that one there, the one in the middle, you're going to put in the oval shaped hole. And obviously this one at the very end. You should be able to raise this up into position. Get all of our bolts to drop through. Once you have them through, you can remove the pull wire and get one of the flange nuts started. Once you have one started on each side hand tight, the hitch will support itself. Once that's the case, we can remove the rest of our pull wires and get the flange nuts started. With these, if you're having a hard time getting it going because the bolt wants to push up, you can always apply a little side pressure to the side of it there, and that'll keep it steady, make it a little bit easier. So with all of your hardware in place and hand tight, we can snug it down and use either a 19mm or a 3/4 inch socket. Now we need to make sure to come back with a torque wrench and tighten down all the hardware to the amount specified in the instructions. If you don't have a torque wrench, you can always grab one here at eTrailer, or a lot of times go to your local auto parts store. They'll have one there available you can rent. What we can do now is get our exhaust back up. So kind of like before, kind of just get these up one at a time. And then I think what I'm going to do is actually get this one started. Like it's kind of holding itself up. Definitely helps if you lubricate this again too to get it on. But so with that up like that, now we can go ahead and get those rearward exhaust bracket hangers bolted back in place. Get these lined back up. And get the bolts back in. Once your exhaust is supporting itself again though, we can remove our strap. And then all that's left to do is come back here to the edge of our bumper and reinstall our screws. And that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the Curt Trailer Hitch Receiver on our 2022 Chevrolet Equinox.